going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam. It's hashtag homeless, back at it again. Day 108. And, it's. I'm okay with it at this point because I know that the number of days left are limited. I still don't have a plan of how to get to Texas, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Let's put it that way. Yesterday, I did some things for a client, which is awesome. I've got projects to work on, and I wanted to get to a certain point. And by the time I got to that point yesterday, I was pretty exhausted, and I called it a day. And today, I think, is going to be an interesting day. The weather's nice. It's a little chilly this morning, but bright sunny day. And I've got some things lined up today that should be interesting. But it's probably going to get in the way of me being able to figure out my Texas move plan. So tomorrow, I guess. Tomorrow, I really got to buckle down because it really boils down to finding the best price on a minivan rental that I can take one way from somewhere that I have access to Texas. And the prices, even for the same rental company, the price is wildly different. Let's just say I were to pick up a minivan here in Jamestown and move from here to Texas, it's going to cost twice as much as if I were to pick up the van in Rochester, New York. And the crazy thing is, Rochester, New York is 2 hours farther away from my destination. I would have to go 2 hours north, get the van, and then drive 4 hours south to get to Pittsburgh with it, to get my belongings and go see my kids. If I pick it up here in Jamestown, I can walk to the place where I pick it up, and it's the same company. So it's just, logistics, and who knows why and how they come up with these prices, but it reminds me of a time that my stepdad had to fly out to California, and he had a layover in Pittsburgh. So he had a layover in Pittsburgh, and he was flying for business, so the cost didn't matter. But he had to fly from Rochester, New York to Pittsburgh, have a layover, and then fly to California. And so he offered to drive me to Pittsburgh. Another time I had to move from Pittsburgh to Rochester, New York for a brief period of time. He drove me down to Pittsburgh in his minivan to catch his flight in Pittsburgh from Pittsburgh to California. But when he called the airline to rebook the transportation, they charged him he was catching the same flight from Pittsburgh to California that he was going to have to catch on the layover. But instead of flying from Rochester to Pittsburgh and then from Pittsburgh to California, he decided to go directly from Pittsburgh to California for this business trip. The airline charged him $1,000 more for the flight to go from Pittsburgh to California than they charged to leave from Rochester, New York, come to Pittsburgh, take that same exact flight and go to California. So who the fuck knows who knows how these people calculate these idiotic pricing schemes. But so I gotta find a place. If I can rent a van from Buffalo or Rochester, or preferably from Pittsburgh, and go to Texas and pay half price for the van compared to what it would cost to go from here in Jamestown, even though it makes absolutely no sense. At least Pittsburgh is 2 hours closer to Texas, but 3 hours closer. I can probably make that happen. And so this is what I got to figure out. I got to figure out the pricing of everything. I got to find the best deal that I can find. And then I've got to line up people I know to help me get to wherever I need to go, unless I'm able to pick the thing up here in Jamestown and just walk over and get it. So, it's never going to be easy, but I know that here this morning, it's Sunday morning, I'm in this park, and I couldn't sit on the bench that I wanted to sit on because there's all kinds of really loud noises coming from the power plant and from across the river. And even though I'm sitting here on this bench, there's some loud noises that all I'm saying is I haven't heard what quiet sounds like in 108 days. And even when I was living in that apartment, it was next to a busy intersection. So there was car traffic going by nonstop all day and night. And so even on the days where I was there in that apartment alone and it was quiet, you would hear traffic going by all day, and there was an auto garage across the street, and as people would pull in and out of the parking lot for the auto garage, it would sound like they were pulling into the driveway of the apartment. And so I'm constantly going up and looking out the peephole in the door to see who's that, what's going on, what was that. And so it was quiet enough. There was a park that I could walk to. It was about a 20-minute, half-hour walk, and the park was really quiet. That was a place I would go to get away from it all. And ever since the last time I walked in that park, which was, I believe it was the day that I found out I was going to be homeless, the last time I set foot in that park, that was the last time I heard what quiet sounds like. And honestly, in the last 2 years and a month, I've heard what quiet sounds like maybe 5 or 6 times. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to go somewhere where I can experience what quiet sounds like on a regular basis. Oh, I can't even imagine what that's going to feel like. So, yeah, I don't know what happened with the end of yesterday's... Well, I know what happened with the end of yesterday's video. The app that I use on Android, background video recorder, it's trash. It's buggy software, it's trash. The app does what it says, and that is it records videos in the background so that you can look at other apps while you're recording. So right now I'm looking at some notes that I took yesterday. And when you see the video get choppy for a few seconds, it's because I'm switching from one app to another, but the video still records. Any other video camera app on Android shuts off the camera as soon as you navigate away from the camera. And there's no setting on those apps to keep it recording without, you have to stay in the app for it to record. And so there are a few different apps that I found that will record video in the background, but this is the only one that was free, and it doesn't have any kind of logos that it superimposes on the video and that kind of stuff. But, at the same time, it does such a horrible job that I would never fork out money and pay for this app, for the paid version. But so when you see the videos glitch out at the end, like yesterday, I think the last 2 minutes of the video it glitched out and there was no sound. And if I open up the original video recording here on this phone and look at it, the problem originates right there from the background video recorder app. So it is what it is, and I really I'm not paying for any apps on Android right now because, number one, I don't have a PayPal account. I'm not going to have a PayPal account. I don't want Google having a credit card number. I've got some beef with Google. I'm just trying not to give Google a credit card number, at least not until I have my own phone at some point, and it's not a phone that my friend gave me on his family plan that's running Graphene OS, which isn't even a standard Android install, or the Obama phone that I got from the government. For now, I'm just going to use free apps, and that's what it is. I'm not buying apps. When I get my own phone, after I get settled in a little bit, and get, whatever nice phone it is. There are a few apps that I would like to own again. There are a few, because I lost one of the beefs I have with Google is that Google snatched away my email account. I was talking yesterday about keeping your buckets separate when it comes to your digital possessions. Don't put all your stuff in one place. So one thing that happened with me when I got arrested is I had a whole bunch of Gmail accounts. And those Gmail accounts were associated with domain names that I owned. And a long time ago, you could buy a domain name from Google, and then you could use that domain name for your Gmail account. And Google would not charge you to do that. It was free. And so I had 2 domain names that I paid for and bought through Google. And then I had email accounts using those domain names, but they were Gmail accounts. And so what happens is Google, they decided to start charging people a monthly fee, and it's like $5 a month for you to use a custom domain name with your Gmail account. But if you already had one of these free accounts, you were more or less grandfathered in. And so for a number of years, I kept that in place. Well, then the summer that I got arrested, Google turned around and decided, we're going to charge you for that. You're no longer grandfathered in, and you have a certain amount of time to change these accounts over to standard Gmail accounts, or else you're going to lose your stuff. And so this all happened when I got arrested. And so when I got back from prison, the accounts are all still there. I had 3 Gmail accounts, but 2 of them were those grandfathered in accounts, and technically the data is all still there. But I can't access the email accounts anymore because the deadline to convert those into standard Gmail accounts passed, and the domain names expired while I was in prison. So I can log into the accounts in a limited fashion, but I can't get all the way in, and I can't get all my stuff back. And as a result, all of the stuff that I had ever bought from Google Play Store for my Android phone, years worth of stuff, is gone. That's one of the things that, you don't own anything with these digital douchebags. When you have an account with Google and you buy apps for your phone, if you were to ever lose that email account, you're screwed. And so as a result, I will never have another Gmail account tied to a domain name ever again. Ever. I'll never do that again. I can set up forwarding, and so any Gmail account that I use, whether it be for this video channel or any other thing, is just going to be some username at gmail.com. It's not going to be adam@mycustomdomainname.com. Because as soon as you make that connection, and if you lose that domain name somehow, or Google starts messing with you, or Google changes their terms, you can lose. What happened to me is I had all these Android apps that I owned, and I could install on this phone that I'm holding in my hand right now. But because I don't have access to that domain name anymore, and I lost access to that Gmail account, and that Gmail account missed the deadline to become a standard Gmail account instead of an email address with a custom domain name linked to Gmail, all the purchases I ever made in the App Store are gone and unrecoverable. You can't transfer them to another account. They'll never let me into the account that they're owned by, and so on and so forth. And another thing you got to watch out for is if you're on a phone and you have multiple Google accounts, which is common for a lot of professionals, especially because you might have one for work, you might have a personal one, you might have 3 or 4. There's been times where I've had 6 freaking Gmail accounts. And if you go to the app store and you buy an app and you realize that you bought it under, it's very, very, very easy to buy an app under the wrong account. You've got to quadruple check that before you buy an app, because there was a time I have an app that you can make. It's a mapping app. It's called Locus Maps, and you can buy maps within the app. And the maps that you can pay for and buy are really nice maps. They're not very expensive. I mean, none of these purchases are more than a couple bucks here and there. And so I bought a map of the Allegheny National Forest once. It was a topographical map with all the hiking trails and everything. It was a really nice map, and it works offline with no internet connection. But what happened was I was signed into a different Gmail account through my I don't even know how to explain it, but I was signed in with a different account, and I bought this map without even realizing that. And then I go to the National Forest to go on my hike, and my phone is logged into the primary Gmail account. And so I open up the mapping app, and the mapping app says, "You're signed in under the wrong account. You can't use this map." But the problem was I couldn't sign into the other account because I was offline and I had no internet connection. And so because of that, I was totally screwed, and I couldn't use the map on that trip that I bought the map for. And so I had other maps, and it didn't really stop me from doing what I wanted to do, but it was annoying because all these digital purchases that you make, it's almost like your Bitcoin wallet. You know, how many people have you heard about who had, you know, maybe when nobody had ever heard of Bitcoin, and a Bitcoin was worth, 5 cents, but you had some geeks that were mining Bitcoins, and they had, somebody had like 15, 20 Bitcoins on a Windows machine, running DOS or some old ass computer. And now a Bitcoin is worth what, $60,000 or something on any given day, and that person's got like $400,000 worth of Bitcoin on some old ass computer in their basement, and they can't even get the computer to turn on, and it's just they're locked out of it. They're screwed because they can't get they can't get to their wallet. They can't get the encryption key or whatever the hell it is that they can't get those Bitcoins. And so it's kind of like with all these digital assets and things that you own, if society goes that direction to where everything is just virtual, what happens when the power goes out? You're all fucked. So, anyway, that's just something to think about. And, make sure that your digital assets, the things that you need for your digital life, you got to be careful about stuff like that. And with Google, like I said, I will never buy another domain name through Google for 20 different reasons I don't have time to explain in this video. And I will never have a Gmail account. I will never have anything in Google associated with a custom domain name ever again. Because if those accounts were not associated with a custom domain name, I would have been able to log back into all of them, and I would have been able to get all my digital purchases back and my apps back and my data returned to me, and I would have been able to read all the emails that came in while I was in prison. I wouldn't have lost them. And technically the accounts are still sitting there, but Google has me locked out because I no longer have access to the domain names associated with the accounts. And I'm not going to pay to buy the domain names that I no longer want. So it's done. They're gone. And so, but anyway, it is what it is. I'm just going to deal with it. And another thing that I'm noticing, I'm going to just do a little time check here before I get into the next thing. Okay. One of the other things I started noticing, yesterday, it started with me seeing that my laptop bag that I carry around, it's starting to wear out. And I've been noticing like there's holes starting to show up in the bag. There's a lot of wear and tear on this bag, and I've noticed that one of the straps on the bag where it anchors to the side of the bag, it's starting to come apart pretty rapidly, and I'm guessing that I might have another week, maybe 2 weeks left before the shoulder strap on this bag just snaps off. And without like a sewing kit or something like that, and I don't even know if a sewing kit's going to take care of this one, but without tools, without a sewing kit, without some TLC, this bag is toast. And I've had this bag for about 3 months. And it's the kind of bag that if you bought this bag in a store and you had a normal life and you bought this bag to carry your laptop and your office stuff to and from work, you'd probably be able to have this bag for 5 to 10 years before you would ever need a new bag. And this bag was, I'm going to say this bag was more or less in brand new condition when I got it for $7 at the thrift store. But it's lasting me about 3 months because of how much abuse that it's been put through, how much I've been carrying it, where it has to be set down, and the fact that I have to go on 8-mile walks carrying this bag over my shoulders. And it wasn't designed for the wear and tear that it's being put through right now. And, it's a solid, rugged bag, but I've got about maybe 2 more weeks left before this bag is hosed. And it just kind of reminded me of if you end up in a situation like this where you're homeless, your stuff is going to wear out fast. You wonder why homeless people look so ragged. It's because nothing lasts forever. And when you're in a situation where you're basically camping every day and surviving, and you're wearing the same 3 outfits every day, it's amazing how fast things start to wear out. In a previous video, just a couple of, what was it, like a month ago now? I don't know. But I'm just looking at these boots I just bought because now I'm about to talk about them. And, okay. So anyway, I had to go buy new boots. I had a brand spanking new pair of Keen rugged hiking boots that I would normally get a year out of before I would buy a new pair of boots. And then even after buying a new pair of boots, those year-old boots would last another 4 or 5 years as, extra boots to keep in the back of a car, or extra boots if it's going to be super muddy out or you're out doing yard work and you don't want to get your good boots all dirty, and, those kinds of things. And these brand new Keen hiking boots, after 3 months of walking around this town, were disintegrated. The tread was completely destroyed, gone. In fact, when I walked to Walmart to get new boots, if I had not found a new pair of boots and tried to walk back to town, those boots would have fallen apart. They would have fallen apart to the point I might have been walking barefoot back to town. 3 months. 3 months for a pair of boots that would normally last me a year and up to several years. 3 months. This laptop bag, 3 months. It's fallen apart rapidly to the point where when I get to Texas, if I'm still carrying it with me and carrying some of this stuff in it, it's going in the trash when I get to Texas, because I don't really have a use for a bag that's all fallen apart beyond repair. So I'm hoping that it lasts long enough for me to get that rental van, and then from that moment on, I don't need the shoulder strap anymore. I just need to get like 1 or 2 more weeks out of it at the most. Let's see here. I'm thinking 2nd week of September. I think this week I'm going to figure things out, say my goodbyes, wrap some things up, put some things together, get things lined up and ready to go, and a plan. And then the following week I'm out as early as Tuesday. I'm thinking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is when I'm going to try and drive. So I have, this is what's in my head right now. And right now it's just going to be easier for everybody if I just get a vehicle and drive down there versus my friend coming up here to get me. And I know I'm going to get 100 comments because I've been getting them every day about, why don't you just take a bus? Why don't you just take a train? Why don't you just take a plane? And I say over and over and over again in the videos why I won't take a bus or a plane or a train. And it's because, number one, I want to stop in Pittsburgh and see my kids that I haven't seen for 2 years before I leave to go to 2,000 miles away, and who knows when I'm going to see my kids again. And number two, I've got belongings being stored for me at someone's house in Pittsburgh. And I would like to, A, get some of that stuff so that I can have it, and B, get it out of their space so they can have their space back. So there's the reason. But I know I'm going to get 6 comments in the freaking video today about, why don't you just take a bus and get out of there? I'm waiting for it. So, but anyway, when you're homeless, things are going to wear out. The only other thing I can compare it to is when people hike the Appalachian Trail and they do a full hike of the full 2,000 and something miles. I've had friends that do this, and I've, talked to other people and read a lot of people's stories about it. And gear wears out. Shoes wear out. People say they'll go through a few pair of shoes to do a trip like that. I've seen it. Tents, your hammock. I mean, things break, things wear out, and it's something you've got to plan for and expect. And it's kind of a double-edged sword if you're a homeless person, because you have limited funds. You might not have any money at all, or maybe you get cash assistance from the government and you're getting like a couple $100 a month. And some of that might have to go to food or who knows what. Even if you get, right now I think I'm getting like $290 a month for food stamps, which that's like, in the Joe Bidenomics economy, that's like a week's worth of groceries for a month. And then you get like $180 in cash assistance every month. So if I was homeless, living out in the woods, I don't have the ability to go out and buy the highest quality gear. I can't go to REI. It's not like they have an REI here, but I can't go to REI or some luxury outfitter to get the highest quality, high top-end camping equipment to survive outside with. And the funny thing is, it's a double-edged sword, because even if you did go out and spend all that money and get the highest quality, top-notch stuff, the homeless situation, you're putting that stuff through some major abuse and using it every single day and surviving with it and relying on it on a daily basis instead of just recreational use on the weekends and stuff like that, and going on, backpacking hikes for a weekend or something like that. And some of this gear that you buy is going to start to fall apart fast. My rucksack, my 60-pound rucksack, is a very high-quality backpack. But if I had to use that backpack every day, hiking around this town, carrying all that stuff, setting up camps, tearing down camps, setting up camps, tearing down camps, and if I had to be doing that for 3 months, that backpack would be done. There would be so many issues with that backpack. There would be boot laces holding things together that ripped or broke. There'd be straps that I'd probably have to go to Walmart and get a sewing kit and sew things back together, or get fishing line and a needle and stitch things back together with fishing line and who knows what, because your gear will fall apart. Your stuff will fall apart. The only real experience that I have with the long distance and the multi-week kind of living like that would be going on road trips and living out of a truck, or going on long bicycle trips that, you're riding 1,000 miles in the span of a week or two. This bird is making some noise. But when you go on a long bicycle ride you go on 1,000-mile bicycle ride, be prepared, something's going to break. It's always going to happen. There was a time I was on my way from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. on my bicycle. I wouldn't even call it a crash. I was getting on my bicycle and my foot got caught in the pedal and the bicycle went down, and when the handlebar hit the trail, the end of my handlebar snapped right off. And here I am, I'm 50 miles from the nearest town with a bike shop. And so by the time I got to the town with the bike shop was closed, and whatever day of the week it was, the bike shop wasn't going to be open for another day or two. I didn't want to just stay in this town. And so I kept riding with a broken handlebar. I could still ride. I made some adjustments, but it was uncomfortable, to say the least. And I was able to ride, I ended up riding all the way to Washington, D.C. with a broken handlebar. There were a couple of times I could have stopped at a bike shop to fix it, get a new handlebar, but doing a handlebar swap was going to take about an hour, maybe more of my time to do everything that needs to be done. And I was just at a point where I wanted to make tracks and make progress on my day. And by the time I got to a bike shop that was very convenient for me to stop at, I'd already been used to riding with the broken handlebar. But let's see, you get flat tires. Flat tires happen a lot. There are certain tires you can buy. There are certain things you can do. There are certain long distance oriented kind of things you can do to set up your bike to try to alleviate those things from happening a lot, but it'll still happen. Broken chain, a broken part of your bike. There's a million different things that can go wrong. You can break a spoke. I had a back wheel once where I had a spoke break, and the next town, and this was like a custom wheel where you couldn't even buy extra spokes to fix that on the road, on the trail. So the next town was about 50 miles away. As I'm riding, I did whatever I could to make adjustments so that I could still ride it with the broken spoke. But I rode another 10, 15 miles, another spoke broke. And by the time I got to the next town, 3 spokes had broken on this wheel, and it was in bad shape. And it was a racing wheel. It had a limited number of spokes. It was a very strong wheel when it was originally purchased, but it finally just decided it had been put through enough abuse in its lifetime. And so the kind of wheel that it was, one spoke breaks and it's a chain reaction, and they're all just... If I would have gone another 20 miles, I wouldn't have had a wheel to ride on anymore. So I stopped at a bike shop and I did a wheel swap. And I got a traditional wheel with traditional spokes that the bike still has to this day. But on that wheel, I would say every time I've gone on a really long distance ride, you'd be riding along and all of a sudden you hear ping, and it's a sound of a spoke breaking. And it's always going to be your back wheel. And it's a pain, and you have to be prepared to fix that. And so it's not something that you would expect to happen on a short ride or going out for the weekend or something like that. But if you're going on a 1,000-mile ride and you're putting some stuff through some abuse, cycling shoes. I had a pair of cycling shoes that started to have an issue, and I was very lucky to be able to get to the end of the 400-mile ride without my shoes falling apart to the point where I wouldn't have been able to buckle my shoes anymore. That was a little bit of a nervous situation where if this buckle had finally just snapped off of the shoe, I wouldn't have been stranded, but that would have been an awful experience trying to ride with those shoes or trying to figure out how to rig this so that I can get to the end of the ride, because I'm not going to be able to buy cycling shoes anywhere along this route. And once again, that's at least an hour or two of your life if you can find cycling shoes somewhere in cleats. And so gear, man, my clothing right now, when I left the apartment, my clothing is wearing out. I have 2 pair of jeans. one pair of jeans that I wear just about every day, and another pair of jeans that I try to keep looking nice for when I have to look presentable for a job interview or something like that. And so these jeans that I wear almost every day, they got holes in them. They're wearing out, like they're falling apart, and it's been 3 months. They were brand new when I walked out the door. On purpose, I said I'm taking these two brand new pair of jeans. One I'm going to keep tucked away. The other one I'm just going to wear until they wear out. 3 months, these jeans are pretty much, they're not finished, but they're definite. They look like they're 3 years old, and it's been 3 months. I have 4 of these synthetic shirts that I packed in my pack. No cotton. I have just 4 of these synthetic shirts. That's why you see me wearing the same thing every day in these videos, because I just cycle through the same, I've got 4 shirts and they're all basically the same shirt. And I do my laundry about twice a week. When things, I got underwear and shirts, when they run out, laundry time. But like all my clothes are starting to wear out. And when I left, I purposely I packed new clothes that were in good shape and, not worn out, and things that I had barely ever worn, because I knew that things were going to wear out quickly, especially if I'm wearing the same stuff all the time. And so my socks are holding up well. Underwear, I could definitely, if I wasn't getting ready to leave to go to Texas here in a week or 2, I would have to go get some clothes. At least some shirts and some underwear, maybe a pair of jeans, maybe. But I'm trying not to have all this stuff accumulating at the homeless shelter. So I'm really trying not to replace stuff until it's like done, and I can throw it away. But now that I'm leaving, I've got clothes waiting for me down in Pittsburgh. I can pick up 3 giant bags full of clothes. I can pick up like a whole dresser drawer worth of, I've got tons of clothes. I've got more clothes than I'll need when I get to Texas. Clothing's not an issue. Once I get out of here and get my stuff that's sitting down in Pittsburgh. But I don't know, the suggestions that I would have in terms of, and I hate to say this, you basically got 2 choices when it comes to getting stuff that's going to, if you're in a situation where you're living out of your car, you're living in the homeless life, and you're relying on gear that needs to last. I would not recommend going to places like REI or maybe Cabela's. These places don't have a lot of locations around the country, number one. You're pretty much going to be stuck, and I hate going to Walmart. I hate going to China Mart. I've only been there twice in the last 4 years. But you can find stuff at Walmart, and you can find stuff on Amazon that will be the right price point, and the quality will be good enough that you're going to get some good use out of it. It's not going to be the dirt cheapest garbage that's just going to fall apart in a day, but it's not going to be as expensive as the luxury, yuppie brands that you find at places like REI. And they do have all the expensive stuff on Amazon, but they also have some really affordable camping gear. And if you have access to be able to accept an Amazon delivery, be it a pickup point, or if they can drop it, if you can do it at a post office. I don't know how it works if you don't have an address, but I know there are people that do it. The Friar Tuck guy, the homeless guy that I talk about, whose channel I watch from time to time, he was talking about how he buys all of his gear on Amazon, and he picks it up at the Amazon locker locations when he's in a town that has one of those spots where you can pick up your Amazon orders. He does a lot of stuff on Amazon. But Walmart is probably, other than China Mart, it's probably your best bet to go get some gear because they do have, I mean, I do have a number of things that I got from Walmart, camping equipment wise, where it was dirt cheap price wise, but the quality was good enough that I've had some stuff last for years. Um, to the point where, and I've had high end stuff break quickly. I mean, Walmart is going to have pretty much everything that you would need for a camping slash survival situation, whether you need a tent, whether you need tarps, whether you need water filtration, camping supplies, cooking equipment. Pretty much anything that you would need to go on a camping trip is going to be at a Walmart. And the prices are going to be lower than what you would pay to go to an expensive outfitter. The quality may or may not be as good. But when you're in a situation where if you buy the top quality, highest price stuff, and it's only going to last 3 months before it falls apart because of the abuse that you're putting it through and the fact that you're using it something for daily use that was meant to be used as an occasional use item, you may as well not buy the most expensive stuff. You may as well get the cheaper stuff that's going to, if it's only going to last 3 to 6 months, you may as well not spend you may as well not spend top dollar on it. When I bought a new pair of boots, I wanted to get a new pair of Keen hiking boots, and I found a deal on Amazon, and I probably could have made that happen. But these boots that I bought at Walmart were half the price that they were going to cost me to get the boots on Amazon that I wanted. And I figured, well, if I'm going to buy a pair of boots and they're only going to last 3 months before I completely wear them out again, may as well spend half the price on them. And I was just looking at these boots before I started talking about this subject, and these boots are holding up pretty well. They've definitely got some wear on the tread, but I'm certainly going to get some more months out of them if I had to stay here for that long. But now that I'm moving down to Texas, I'm going to give my feet a rest for a few weeks and try not to abuse my feet and let them heal from some of the damage that's been done over the last few months. But other than that, then I can go out and get a nice pair of hiking boots when money starts coming in, and after I get a place and the things that are more important. But that's just something I started to think about yesterday when my bag was falling apart. And this is an extremely rugged laptop bag that shouldn't be falling apart in a span of 3 months, but here we are. And the reason for it is because I'm putting it through abuse and through situations and carrying it for 8 miles a day on my shoulders. And it kind of makes me wish I had spent more money on a backpack, but even the backpack would be falling apart after the abuse that I've been putting it through. And there are a couple of backpack brands for laptop backpacks. One's the Swiss Army brand, and they have a lifetime guarantee on their stuff, so if something breaks, you can get a new one sent to you. But you may not even have that option when you're homeless. How are you supposed to keep receipts? How are you supposed to keep track of your receipts? How are you supposed to how are you supposed to get delivery of a replacement item if they're going to ship it to you? You've got all these factors that you wouldn't have if you had a home to live in. Amazon. The one good thing about Amazon is that any purchase you ever make on Amazon, pretty much forever, you can go back and you can look up that purchase and you can therefore get the receipt right away. And so if you are buying in a piece of equipment that has a lifetime warranty, Amazon's a good place to do that, because you'll always be able to get your receipt if the company that you bought the thing from and you need a replacement for asks you to send them the receipt. So a Walmart receipt, you can take a photo of it with your phone as soon as you get it, but keeping a paper receipt when you're homeless and keeping that thing from keeping that intact for as long as you might need to, that's like, forget it. It's not going to happen. So that's what I got to talk about today. If you're ever in a situation where you're facing something like this, quality Try to get the best quality gear that you can get for the lowest price you can get it for. And, don't go after the top dollar, top of the line stuff unless the top of the line stuff, A, it has a lifetime warranty, and B, it is going to last for, it can hold up to the rugged abuse that you're going to put something through. Because if you end up in a situation where you're living out of your car, or you're living out on the street, you're living out on a backpack and walking everywhere and living out in the woods and doing this, after 3 months of nonstop use, a tent might not make it. A tent might not hold together that long. So, any other gear that you can think of, tarps, anything is going to fall apart. Nothing lasts forever. So, we're about 45 minutes in. I'm just going to wrap this one up. I've got some things I got to do today, some places I got to be, I think. I don't know. This day is kind of up in the air. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to make it to church today. I will be going to church if this other thing falls through. So, otherwise, I'll be talking to you all tomorrow, and I'm hoping that by the middle of this week, I'll have a solid plan and dates and times figured out for moving to Texas. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.